was born in the Greenwich section of Scranton, sort of on the edge heading toward the troop section of the county in 1944. And my family, my father is of Slovak heritage. My mother's side of the family was German and English. In talking about my childhood here, it was nothing extraordinary, but I had an interest in politics from a very early age. So I had an uncle, John Washo, and he was the director of public works in the city of Scranton when it was a different position. One of the other early recollections along those lines is it was $1 if you got a parking ticket in Scranton. And I don't think anybody paid for their tickets because stacks and stacks and stacks were given to my father, who then would give them to my uncle, who would then see that they were erased. Now, I'm not saying any of this boastfully, semi-humorously. You know, even then, $1 wasn't that much money, but people didn't want to pay that $1. You know, that's not done anymore. But that's a part of the culture, the expectation. I never expected to come back to Scranton, but I never expected to leave Scranton, even before the coming back became a decision. But so I went to Michigan, I studied history, and took a master's degree in history, and actually did everything but a dissertation for a PhD in history. I had a wonderful 9 years as the deputy historian for the state of Michigan. For a couple of years, then I did marketing, which is in architecture is a glorified word for sales. And I pounded the pavement in cities across the United States doing that. So I had this opportunity to come back here. Jim McNulty was the mayor, and we knew each other at the sandbox stage of our lives, but hadn't kept in touch with each other and never really knew much about each other. And he saw me in what was then Prino's restaurant and said, "I want you to come back here, and I have a job for you." And I was a little taken aback, but I was thinking about my dad, and my dad, during all this, came down with a fatal disease, and so I came back and got to know my dad, and it was like I never left. You know, I feel so sorry for people who move here from somewhere else, because it's all, the fix is in. They've decided he's good, he's bad, she's good, she's bad. It was decided at birth. So it was like I never left, not at all. People started calling me Mickey for the first time in decades, and Mickey was home. Coming home turned out to be much bigger than I realized. Jim McNulty was a very astute person. He really understood the dynamics of politics and the community. I was with him for 3 years, and then Dave Wenzel asked me to stay on. Now that made some people angry because Dave Wenzel was a Republican, but David was always, he was a nonpartisan partisan and a good friend of mine. I left in the midst of Dave Wenzel, and then Jimmy Connors got elected mayor, and he brought me back, and we worked on the mall project together. And so then I started dabbling in politics, not to any great success. In fact, first there was failure. And I learned a wonderful lesson from that, not to become embittered and not question who supported you and who didn't support you. People have their reasons. They may not like you for, that's the worst reason. But then the other reason, it could be jobs. People around here were so tied to politics that there's always been this fear that they'll lose their job. Isn't that a disgrace? 2005, Randy Castellani was the minority commissioner, and he resigned in the midst of his term. He'd been a year and a half, I think, into his term, and I said, I want that. I then started finding out who was on the committee. I was never on any of the Democratic committees, so who's that? Who's going to do it? And then how do you get appointed? And what does the state law say? One judge said, a Republican judge, because I've always been bipartisan, really. A Democrat, don't mistake, but recognizing the talents of Republicans too. One of the Republican judges said, "You don't have to come to my office. You have my vote," because the judges would get a list of 3 from the county political executive committee, 3 people that they recommend. And within that week time frame, I got the job, or 10 days. And I said I was the only guy available on a Tuesday because there were a lot of people that wanted this job. I mean, county commissioner. I mean, this is the whole ball of wax. It's drug and alcohol. It's children and youth, which is in the news right now. It's senior citizens. It's mental health. It's intellectual disabilities. I mean, it is an awesome, awesome job. And I mean in terms of responsibility. You go home from working as a county commissioner, if you're really working the job, you go home exhausted, and you go home touched by the stories, the needs, the importance of having a good staff, all of that. So it was a seminal experience in my life. I did it as a minority commissioner for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and then I did it for 4 years as a majority. John Kennedy came here in 1960. The whole avenue was abuzz with people and excitement, and there were no communications then other than hard lines. And people would say, "Well, he's in Pittston now. He's getting here. He'll be here in a few minutes." And it was like the ushering in of a new age in America. It kind of turned a page in my head when I saw Kennedy and I saw the energy and the enthusiasm for him. And then there was a lot of energy. That was Bill Scranton was elected in that important election. So you had Kennedy winning, the Democrat, and Bill Scranton, the Republican, winning. A very significant person in our political history, as well as the Casey families brought a lot of attention in terms of bringing outside people to the community, as was demonstrated this past week with the attendance of President Biden at the viewing of Mrs. Casey at the Cathedral of St. Peter here in Scranton. So we played way above our weight. My hope is that at some point the federal government will see fit to move some research out of the DC area into areas like Scranton for good reason, because we have talent here at our colleges and universities. These are institutions that will make or break the community. That's where it's going to happen. Well, I'm proud to be an American. I never give up on it. When you think about what was created in Philadelphia in 1787, it's really remarkable. But I think there's a huge question there now. What do we do about it? Now, I feel like we're just on the edge of where Lincoln was in 1861. And I think the sooner we recognize that, maybe, and take that into our calculations as people, as individuals, the sooner we may be able to pull back from where Lincoln was in 1861. I think we have to do a better job of understanding why people are so upset, so disillusioned by their government. Look, Lincoln won with less than 40% of the vote. So you're not, this country has a tradition of duking it out in our elections. So we're talking about a similar situation, I think. And who needs to address this? Everybody. I mean, it's going to get worse unless we get some decent conversation. Changing the people in the offices isn't going to change the attitudes of people. We all have a job to do. I have two of my children are Asian. I have a daughter who's gay, and I see what people are doing to people who are gay or have a different color, different skin color, and it worries me. But I'm not just thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about everybody's kids are in these situations. It's a really frightful time.
I ride straight